Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Siddharth, and I handle marketing duties. And today's webinar will be driven by Mr. Narendra Venugopal, our Pan-India sales head. So he has 15 years of national and international experience on document management solutions. So he'll be driving the webinar today. We're so glad to have you all.
Thank you, Siddharth. Siddharth, hope my voice is audible, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, then. Thank you so much for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you, your family, friends, and colleagues are safe. I'm guessing most of us are connected from home. We are just curious about that, and there's a small polling. Request you to just put your vote on there. We are keen to know how many of us are working from home. I can, Siddharth, you can just put the poll so there.
Okay.
And while Siddharth is doing that, we understand that all of us are going through a bit of a rough patch with COVID-19. However, we believe that continuing what we do best with few skill set upgrades, to help our productivity, I guess we should all be good. However, the most important thing would be to stay safe, because that's above all in today's situation. Having said that, again, thank you for your time. I will try and make this webinar as interesting as possible. Once the polling is done, I'll be running through the a quick presentation, and then directly we'll be getting into the demo itself. Thank you all. All right, team. Thank you for putting your votes. So let me start off with a quick presentation. Would just like to talk a little bit about our company. WeP was initially known as Wipro ePeripherals. In 2000, it became an independent entity. We have multiple businesses, one of them being WeP Retail Business Unit. So here we manufacture billing machines for the Kirana stores. We have around 2 lakh customers over there. We have 2 lakh customers pan-India. And on the corporate side, we have WeP Managed Print Services. Here we have 600 odd corporate customers who are mid-size and large. The business here is, we deliver the printers that you want, any make. We manage the printers in terms of, any hardware requirements, so on and so forth. You will be only charged per print. That's what we do with WeP Managed Print Service. We are #1 in India on that part. And then we have WeP Power Solutions as well, which is a different company called Elnova. And then comes WeP Digital Services. That's a company that I represent. And we are in existence from 2017. It's a 100% subsidiary of WeP Group. At WeP Digital Services, we provide 2 products or services. One of them is related to GST, that is Goods and Service Tax. We in fact hold the license, which they call it as GSP or GST Subhida Provider from the government. And with GST services, it covers a suite of products. One is related to GST return, e-waybill automation. We talk about e-invoicing, which is the next thing that's coming up as well. All this are part of the same service. The second product is related to document management system. And when we talk about document management system, that's the topic of the day, which I'm going to talk a little more in detail as we go forward. So let me quickly get into the next slide. Team, at any point, if you feel that the demo pace is too fast, please ping us, and I'll try and make sure that the pacing is a little more smoother. Now, when we talk about WeP DMS features, these are some of the features that I'm going to highlight here. The first one that you see on the top left-hand corner is folder automation in eLocker. So eLocker is nothing but a document repository to hold all your confidential documents in our product, which also comes with an additional, additional password requirement. And then we have remote working and mobility. So that's the thing of the day, the thing of the month now. Here, the entire DMS features, the solutions that we're going to talk about is available both on mobile phone as well as on your computers. So you can be working from home or office, you'll still be able to access the data. Then we have business process automation with powerful workflow. So when we talk about, that's one of the important points we're going to discuss on today's demo, and we'll be demonstrating the same. So here you'll be able to define a process, and the same thing will be able to automate. And how we're going to do that is something that we're going to discuss today. Similarly, we have a digital task management. So here, since we are talking about document management system, our document management system also has electronic forms, so you can create your own tasks as well. So that's something that we're going to discuss. In addition to that, when we talk about collaboration, you can collaborate with external vendors, external parties that could be your vendors, customers, so on and so forth. And this can be like a contract or like an invoice, so on and so forth, which is also something that we're going to discuss today. Secure content and project collaboration. So when you talk about secure, so even let it be a vendor collaboration or a team collaboration, um, the data here is secured. All our data is encrypted with AES 256-bit, which is the highest level of security. And in addition to that, any data that flows through the network is also being secured with SSL. And when we talk about the application level itself, we have both folder level permissions that can be handled, as well as subfolder level as well for all the files. We have permissions like read access only. We have permissions like read and download, read and upload, which is something that we're going to show as we go further in the demo. So that's how how we have secured a product. The product itself is available in two flavors. One is on cloud, which is on Microsoft Azure, and then we also have on-premise. Then we have, when we talk about governance and the compliance, so the product also has audit trail, which will help you to track down the events. You'll be able to reconstruct the events to figure out what has happened in the past on a particular document or an electronic form. We also have a powerful search engine. Ideally, you'll be able to search a document through metadata, document content, document file name, so on and so forth. The product also has some of the nice integration features. One is it can integrate with chat or conference solution. We also have integrations with mission critical applications as well. In addition to that, we have APIs that we call as RESTful APIs, which can also be utilized to integrate with third-party ERPs as well. So these are some of the features that I just wanted to run through. Let me get to the next slide here. So here are some of the solutions that we have deployed in the market. We have deployed a procure-to-pay automation for one of the leading tire manufacturing company in India. We have also delivered a quality management system automation for a well-known chemical manufacturing company in India. A vendor management for one of the largest retail chain from Europe is also been something that we have implemented. All these solutions are based on the same product. These are all just additional favors on the same product. We've also done management of change is another solution that has been implemented at a leading chemical company in India as well. And we have employee records management system. Employee onboarding is something that can be automated as well using the same product. Legal document management is another thing that's been done for one of the leading FMCG company in India as well. So these are few solutions that I have just brought up. There's many more that can be automated using the same product. Having said that, in today's discussion, we were talking about business continuity itself. The business continuity comes with 4 phases. One is access or assess a potential impact is one of them. So we need to assess what is the potential impact, then possible recovery strategy, plan and development, and testing. These are the 4 phases that comes part of a business continuity plan. So COVID is something I think none of it anticipated. I think this is going to become a norm in terms of business continuity in the future. What we are going to do as a company in today's webinar is we need our companies to adapt to the new ways of working. And in this process, we are trying to do whatever possible in terms of automation. So in today's webinar, what we're going to do is, as part of business continuity, I'm taking a simple example of a vendor onboarding earlier, where most of it was through email communication. We will try and see how this can be automated using a product from web. And this is going to be a live demo. I have not taken the demo too much in detail. I want to keep it crux, a little bit crisp, so that it's easy to understand as well. And it's been custom built for this particular webinar. Now, the way the process is being defined is, in terms of vendor onboarding, a process simple. It's about collecting documentation and data that is needed to set up a company as approved vendor or a supplier. So that's what is the process. So within this process, a procurement team initiates the process by entering basic required details of a vendor. Now, when I'm talking about a procurement team, this is not specifically for a procurement team alone. It's an example that we have taken for today's demo, but the features that we're going to talk about can be implemented for various domain-based solutions as well, which I just explained in our previous slides. Now, once the procurement team fills up the form, it's actually an email that will be sent across to the vendor. Vendor is still not been approved, so he's outside of the company. So there's an email that goes out to him. He fills up the data, attaches all the necessary documents, and after that, the procurement team receives the approval request after they submitted it. And here, the procurement team can review the documents. They have an option either to approve it or reject it. If they reject it, it will go back to the vendor for more information. If it's been approved, then the system has the ability to automatically create a folder within the repository, move all the documents into that repository, and also update it with the metadata, which is like tagging the document. So this entire process is something that was being automated using the product. Again, this can be done sitting at home. You can be sitting at office. You might have multiple approval levels before a vendor has been approved. People might be sitting from different locations. That's all going to happen through a simple UI that will be provided on your mobile, or it could be on your computer as well. So that's the benefit of the solution that we're going to discuss today. Now, finally, I just want to mention that the second week of May, we're going to have another webinar, which is related to management of change. This is again going to be an industry-specific solution, which is primarily for the manufacturing sector. It could be pharma, chemical, or any other manufacturing companies. This would be a critical solution, and that will be a focused demo on a particular solution itself. And people who are interested can definitely register for the webinar. You would be receiving the email invites. If you're interested, please register yourself, and we would be glad to have you again on a webinar on the second week of May. So this is about the presentation. So let me deep dive into the product demo itself. So team, before as we move forward, I hope my voice is audible. Siddharth?
Yes, it's audible here. Let me check with the rest of them as well. I'll put it on the chat, and
Yes,
let me await their response.
Okay. I'll just pause for a second and then we move on. So now I hope you're seeing the screen, which says "Welcome to WeP DMS." Those are product. The demo that I'm going to show you is going to be completely out of the box. It's a vanilla product. No customization is being done. However, the product has a framework to further extend it and customize it for your requirement as well. But today on the demo, I'm going to show you the product which is out of the box. So I'm logging into one of the users now. So as we log in, you could see there are multiple tiles here. each one of the style is a app in itself. We have the ability where you can turn off or on the app as per your requirement. But if you turn it on, it all works together. If you turn off the app, that feature will not be available for you within the company. So that's what it is. So we have made that a flexibility within the product. On today's demo, some of the important features that we have here is My Files, Department, Project, Partner Space, eLocker. So all these features are primarily related to a document repository. The difference between My File, the difference in My File is it's specifically for an individual within the company where they can store the documents. You can still share the documents from your access to another person within the company, but this is specifically for you, for an individual. And then we have department and project. Again, department and project, both are document repositories. The difference is department is intra and project is interdepartmental. And then we have partner space. The same collaboration is possible through an external party, which is, it could be a vendor or your customer. You can actually interact with them through a module or an app called Partner Space, which is also something that I'm going to show today as well. Then we have eLocker. eLocker is similar to My Files, but you get an additional layer of protection here with additional password. So you need to put in a password to log into the system to get access to the documents. Now, these are all related to document repository. Then we have something called as workflow here. So workflow is primarily related to process automation, which is something that we're going to see in the demo today. Now, having said this, let me quickly get into the demo that's been designed for today's webinar. So I'm just going to log into the workflow. And I'm going to start off a vendor onboarding automation process. So here on the vendor onboarding process, I just click on the start workflow. So assuming that I've logged into a person called Prashant Kullu, and he's from procurement, then he's going to start off a particular form. So this form has multiple fields here. So this, since it's a vendor onboarding, I'm just going to give a name here of the vendor. So these are some of the basic information that we provide. And then since this vendor is still not onboarded, and we are providing this information manually, but if these are existing vendors, usually this data comes as a drop down for you. And then there is a account name. So there's going to be new one, and then we have location, and then there's a product. I can select a product here, and type of organization, it's company, partners, unregistered. You can select this. So here, this is not fixed fields. You can also add more fields as per a requirement as well. And then here, you can see here, there's company registration certificate and GSTN certificate. This is something that as a company, we're expecting from the vendor to upload. So now what we're doing is, since I put in the details here, I'm going to make it as an urgent thing and click on submit. So the procurement team is sending this information to the vendor, and now the vendor is going to get an email. And that's something that we're going to log in now. And as vendor get an email, they'll still be able to access the as requested. So I'm just opening up a Gmail account. I hope this is visible. You can see this. We have got an email notification. So we have logged in as one of the vendor here. So the vendor has received one of the email notification here. As we log in, we can see there's a temporary ID that's been created. So this temporary ID has been created at the initial stage because the vendor is still not been onboarded. It's just still an onboarding process. But once the vendor has been onboarded completely, there'll be a permanent vendor ID that will be created as well. So the vendor has an option here to click on open link. So here, when he clicks on open link, there's no requirement of putting in a username and password. You can see the vendor name, vendor ID is to be seen, and then vendor email address. So the location is something that they will see as well. GSTN is their business registration that will be requested here. You can have more. Usually during a vendor registration process, they would ask for a cancel check. They would ask for your PAN, your TAN, so on and so forth. But just keeping the time in mind, I've just kept two options here: GSTN number and a company registration. So the important part here is you can see there is no login required. So I'm just going to put in GSTN. And these fields can be validated as well. There is a red color star, which indicates that there's a mandatory field. The vendor can also attach the form as well. The certificate has been attached by the vendor. And then they're also asking for a company certificate. The vendor can select the company certificate as well. So I'm just selecting some dummy documents here just to showcase it. Now, once this is done, the vendor can click on complete task to finish the task at this point. So let me click on finish task. The vendor can also provide some comments. Click on OK. So this completes the task from the vendor side. So once the task has been completed, this has been pushed back to the company here. So I'm going to log in as again Prashant, who is the from the procurement team. You can see that the task has come back here for approval. It's in progress. You can see the date. So all these fields can be further customized as well. You can see that vendor document request. It says procurement approval is pending here. So currently we are putting just one level of approval. This can go with multi-level approval as well. It's up to the company's policies. We'll be able to design the process accordingly. Now, as you see this is all browser-based tool. The same thing is accessible on a mobile. It's also accessible on computer. So you can sit at home or office. You'll still be able to finish your task. Now, you can see all the information. We can see the certificates that's been attached here as well. There is history. This indicates, step-by-step process on what's happened along with date and time. And there's also an option of query. So if you want to ask a question within the company to any person within the company, and usually what happens, we pick up a phone, ask them a query or send an email. The only problem with that is if based on that information we act and there's a problem, it becomes difficult to reconstruct the events. If that happens within the tool where you ask the query within the tool, any information that you get from the suggesting party will also be recorded. So tomorrow something goes wrong, you'll still be able to reconstruct the events. Sorry about that. Now, as a procurement team, I have the option to approve or reject it. So for this scenario, I'm going to approve it, which means this process is going to move forward. So for now, let me duplicate this particular screen. I'll just show in real time what happens at the back end. Projects and then contract. So now, once it's been approved, you will see that with that particular vendor name, a folder gets created and all the documents will be moved here automatically. And this is live that I'm going to show you right now. So let me approve this particular task. So I've finished the task now, which ideally means that, from the procurement team, they have approved it, which has gone further, which primarily is being handled by the workflow engine, which at the back end goes, checks for the folder. If there's a vendor folder not been created, it creates the folder name, folder with the vendor name, and then moves all the documents into that folder and also update the metadata. So this process is completely automated at the back end. And that's something that I'm going to show you right now. So you can see this, there's the screen. I'm just going to refresh it. You can see that, vendor ABCD has just been created now. And when you click on this, you can see the document that was uploaded is also available here. It's all been approved. You can view this document as well. You can view the document here. And you also have an option where you can share the document as well. You can share it. So when you share the document, a public link gets created. And when you send it across to another person to view it, you can define whether the other person can download the document. You can define whether the other person can share it with another person who's not even intended at this point of time, that can be defined here. You can also define when this particular link expires as well, so that you can put a lot of control here on people accessing the document. So this is part of something called as information rights management, and a small piece of that has been added into the tool, which makes a tool a little more stronger in terms of security. Now, having said that, now we have seen all the documents here. When you right click here and go to details, you can see this, it's also updated with the metadata, like, the vendor name and GST number are updated here. So basically you'll be able to just go ahead and, search and retrieve these documents. So we have, earlier in the presentation I mentioned, we have a very powerful search engine. I'll just show you that right now. You have an option here to go to search. You can search either by file name, file content, or meta class. So meta class is primarily with the information that we have tagged the document. So it's vendor onboarding. So I have the GSTN number. I'm going to select the GSTN number, put the GSTN number here, click on apply. You can see that, the document is searched and it's available for you right here on this particular screen. That's how quickly you'll be able to search. If this document is, OCR enabled, you'll also be able to do a content search as well. Now, before we move any further, I just wanted to get a feel that things are going at the right pace. Please let me know if you do have, if you feel the pacing is a little faster. And also, I just want to make sure my voice is audible. So that I hope the voice is still audible, right?
Yes, your voice is clear. And to the participants, if there's any questions, you can put it on the chat box. We'll take it up later.
All right. At this point of time, we just want to mention that we also have version control. We also have an audit trail. You can see that it shows the file has been viewed, date and time. All this available for you right here. And in addition to that, the tool also has the ability to have version control. So if you have multiple versions of the same document, it also maintains the version automatically. So this is something that that's been handled out of the box. So this is the gist of the solution that we wanted to quickly show to you. This solution was custom built for this particular webinar. The vendor onboarding and vendor registration is a lengthier process. If you guys are still interested, you can reach out to us. We can have a one-to-one demo on that, a little more in detail, showcasing the solution specific to your requirement. So having said that, what we've seen here is, the product which is out of the box, vanilla. I'm just going to go back to the home screen. You can see all those apps. If you have to access a task, you have to go to workflow, and then within the workflow, you have a task here. I earlier mentioned that the product has a framework where you can custom build your look and feel of the product as well. So I'm just going to show you that here. You can see this particular screen. It's the same product. You can have your own look and feel. So here is the login screen. I just sign in. You can see here, the entire screen is a bit different. We have an inbox here instead of task. This is required by a customer. Then we also have dashboards. We can build in dashboards the way you want it. The data is available within the system. It's just that, we need to define the dashboard based on the role of a person who's going to look into it. It could be in an executive who might want to see a different kind of dashboard. It could be a manager. It could be some executive team, so on and so forth. So based on the requirement, we can define the dashboard as well. So this is called our an application layer which can be further customized. Right. So this was a brief demo on the product. Just a quick look on a little more on tech side of the product itself. We have a designer here. Just wanted to show what we showed on the demo today, the vendor onboarding process. The simplest way to do that is you have the option to create your fields. These are the form fields that was there. It's all drag and drop. The same thing goes to flow design. So flow design is your process. You again drag and drop. This is the process that we just did. We had a task that came in for the vendor, then it was approved by the procurement team, then a folder was created, permissions was set, all this was automated. So this part is automation. This part is where human intervention would be required. So this is how we design it. And the same thing is being published, and this is available for you to go for usage kind of a thing. So this how easy it is to drag and drop and design a particular process. Team, this is what we had in mind for today's webinar. Um, if anybody has any questions, please let us know, and we are open for another 10 more minutes to take the questions. I'll just pause for about 30 seconds to take up these questions. So while this is happening, I think Siddharth, you can send across the poll on, just to check if the webinar was useful or not.
Yes,
Team,
yes.
we're just curious to get your feedback to understand if the webinar made sense to you. Please help out with your votes, and that will help us improve our upcoming webinars as well. Thank you. All right. I think the questions that's coming, we will also respond to it through email as well. If you do have any question that might come up to you later, you can definitely send us an email. We will take it up and respond to you. And if you're interested in getting a little more deep dive into the solution itself, you can reach out to us. We can also schedule a one-on-one demo with your specific requirement. So having said this, I think I would like to thank you all again for your time. Keep safe, and hope to see you guys again in our next webinar, which is going to happen on second week of May, which is related to management of change. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining.
Thank you all for joining. Bye-bye.